Hi, welcome to Wise Guys. This video is on percent problems, working through questions and answers. So we talked about this before. We talked about the relationship, that when you're working with percent problems, it helps to think of it as the part over the whole. So let's just write that down, part over the whole. Now it also takes is important to just sort of read the question a few times before you try to figure out what's what. So here we have 30% of 275 is what number? Now when we're dealing with percent, this piece here is always the part. So in percent, anything that isn't 100 is the part. Okay? Even if this number was 430%, if it was really high, it would still be the part. So the part of the whole, because 100% is always a whole in percent. Now, the question is saying 30% of something is what number? The trick is to, or not the trick, but what we need to do is figure out, is 275 the whole or the part? And sometimes we have to read the question 2 or 3 times and just really listen to the words to get the idea of which one is the whole or the part. Notice that it's saying, and sometimes what helps me is just to change the words. So 30% of the orange is what? 30% of the jacket is torn. So it's 30% that's torn, right? So this thing has to be the whole, and the what number is the part, okay? And if you don't like my examples, you might even think 30% of something is. So 30% is what number? This piece is the part and is connected to the 30%. So the what number, this question mark, is the thing we're looking for. So it's the part, and it goes over the whole, which is the 275. Now, we're looking for x. We have 30% divided by 30%. I'm just going to get rid of the 30%, or percent divided by percent, so I'm just going to cancel those. Multiply here by 275, because that gets the 275 out of this side. If I multiply on this side by 275, I have to multiply on this side by 275, because what we do on one side of the equation, we must do on the other. Then I go back here. 275 divided by 275 is 1, so these two cancel. Now I have x equals 275 times 30 divided by 100. So I'm just going to write that down. X equals 275 times 30 divided by 100. The 30 divided by 100 is 0.3. So I can say, okay, 275 times 0.3. Then I can just plunk it in my calculator. 275 times 0.3 equals 82.5. So my answer then is 82.5. And it's always a good idea to ask yourself if the answer makes sense. 30% of 275. This is almost 300. 30% of 300 would be, oh, that's wrong. Actually, bad thinking there. Approximately 1/3, right? So approximately 1/3 of 300 would be about 100. So this is a reasonable answer. Let's try the next question. What percent of 247 is 67? So again, you have to think about what's the part and what's the whole here. What percent, when they're asking for what percent, they're not asking for the 100%. So this thing has got to be the part, all right? What percent of 247 is 67? Which one here is the part and which is the whole? What percent of something is 67? The what percent is connected to the 67. So this piece is the part. And this is the whole. And I think I've said it before, but I'll say it again. This number does not have to be small to be in the part. This could be 567. It would still be the part. Okay? So you have to read the question carefully. So let's set it up. So I'm going to write it as part over the whole. So we have 67 over 247 equals our unknown percent over 100%. Okay? All right, so now we're just solving for x, which is going to be our percent. So I'm going to multiply this side by 100%, and I'm going to multiply this side by 100%. These two 100% cancel, gone. So we're left with x equals 67 times 100% divided by 247. Now I'm just going to put that into my calculator. So we have 67 times 100 divided by 247 equals 27.125. 27.125. Now I'm just going to ask myself, is that a reasonable answer? Yes, it is a reasonable answer. Okay, so 67 with respect to 247, that's more than double 100. So then this answer has to be probably a little bit less than 30. And paying attention to sig figs, if we're worried about that, we have 3 sig figs, 2 sig figs, so let's go with 2 sig figs here. We're going to go with 27. Okay, next question. 40% of what number is 36? So 40% of something is 36. Right? This is our unknown. Which is the part and which is the whole? Of course, the 40% has to be the part with regards to percent. And the 40% is 36, right? So this number has got to be the part. And this piece here is our whole. So our x will be our whole, the thing we're looking for. So 40% over 100%, and again we're doing part over whole, equals 36, which is our part, over our whole, which is x. Now, when we have x in the denominator, it's always a little frustrating because it's a bit more work to get that thing sorted out. But let's just deal with this first. I want to get rid of the percents, and I'm going to take 40 and divide it by 100, and that'll give me 0.4. So that sort of cleans it up a little bit. So 0.4 equals 36 over x. Now again, I'm still trying to solve for x, and it's in the denominator. So to get it up, I multiply this side by x, and multiply this side by x. I have to multiply this side by x. Go back here, and the x's cancel, because x divided by x is 1. So these two cancel. Now I have 0.4 times x equals 36. So I'm still trying to solve for x. but right now it's multiplied by 0.4. So then what I do is divide it by 0.4, and the reason I do it is because 0.4 divided by 0.4 is 1. So that'll get the 0.4 out of this side. But if I divide by 0.4 here, I have to divide by 0.4 over here. These two cancel and become 1. And we're left with x equals 36 over 0.4. So x equals 36 divided by 0.4, which equals 90. Okay. And again, does the answer make sense? We're saying 40% is 36. So clearly the number has got to be fairly large because this is 40%. It's more than double 36. So yeah, that's a reasonable answer. Last question. The voltage of a generator is 120 volts. If 8 volts are lost in the supply line, what is the rate of the voltage loss? Okay, so we're trying to find the rate, and it says rate is another term for percent. So we're looking for our percent. That's over 100%. And it equals to our loss, which is the 8 volts. And that's over the total, or the whole piece, which is our 120 volts. Now we're looking for x. What we're going to do is multiply this side by 100%. I'm going to multiply this side by 100%. These two cancel. We have x equals 8, and volts cancels too, so let's get rid of those. 8 times 100% over 120. So we just put that into our calculator, and we have 8 times 100 divided by 120 equals 6.6666. So we have 6.666, and that is a percent. Pay attention to our sig figs. Well, we don't have very many here. We have 1. So we're going to go with 7% loss. And that's the amount of loss of voltage with that generator. Okay? All right. And so that was brought to you by Wise Guys. And I hope you have a super day. Take care.